I was in the process of burning chromacopia into my brain. I will make a video on that, and I want you to watch it. When the Come Up mixtape, Volume 1 by J. Cole, appeared on my YouTube timeline, I stopped what I was doing immediately to listen to this mixtape. Let's talk about it today. I'm Malia Dubs, and I'm a writer. That's it. I love J. Cole's music so much. If you don't already know this, only 12 videos in, if you don't already know that I love J. Cole's music so much. The Come Up Volume 1 mixtape was originally released in 2007. And yesterday on J. Cole's YouTube channel, the mixtape was re-released on YouTube and all streaming platforms. I listened to it, of course. I just want to really briefly go over some of my favorite parts of this mixtape and how this mixtape possibly gives us some type of clue into what he might be planning for the fall off. Overall, I did love the sound of this album. It was really fun to sort of travel back in time and get a different sound in my ear. Even though it was from the past, it was refreshing for my ear, and I really did enjoy listening to the young version of J. Cole and thinking about some of the similarities and differences between the young version of J. Cole and the now version of J. Cole. This album, from the way that it sounded, it really digs into this place that J. Cole is in, where he is rising through the ranks of his rap career. So it was a really interesting perspective, and this is such a great piece of art for J. Cole because he is really good at telling stories from different perspectives. You get this feel that he is going somewhere. He's energetic in the way that he raps. He's on his way somewhere big, and also still not out of touch at all with some of the realities of coming from a low-income background in America as an African American. That has definitely remained the same throughout his music. J. Cole, the character rapper, not the person, feels very connected to the average Joe living experience. He is a very grounded guy and someone who feels very connected to the Black community and connected to their struggles. In one song, he mentioned that he has a lot of weight on his shoulders, so he really takes a lot of personal responsibility on himself and a lot of burden of the community's issues. There's also a very common theme of him really believing in his dreams. Calls himself a dreamer. He still calls himself that. He has such a strong belief in his dreams and in himself. It is truly the guiding light of his life. Also, one of the benefits of listening to this younger version of J. Cole is that I do hear a lot more of his sense of humor. J. Cole is funny. I don't think that we talk enough about how funny and how hearty his sense of humor is. I heard a lot more of that in this album compared to some of his earlier work. And as a listener and as a fan, I personally really enjoyed that aspect of it. I did not get a chance to burn this album into my brain, so this is just very surface level thinking. None of this is clearly thought out at all. I'm gonna get into some of my favorite tracks on the album and some of the things that I liked about those. The very first, the intro, I loved that intro. It sets it up perfectly. I like it more now listening to it with this anticipation of the fall off coming out, because you get the sense that he is telling this epic tale and this is the beginning of that tale. Simba, he came out swinging with those bars. Loved it. School Days is sort of, he's reminiscing on his time in high school, going back into the past And listening to J. Cole in the past talk about the past is quite an interesting journey as a listener. It was very funny to hear him go into the past in high school. Because obviously I think he's close to 40 now. So the past for him at that time is high school. He does a really good job of taking the listener on a journey through what his high school experience was like, and there is a lot of explanation and describing the social interactions that he experienced in high school. Dollar in a Dream is probably my favorite song on this album. I love the sound. The sound was so beautiful. I love that heartfelt, hungry, compassionate version of J. Cole. I really like that he speaks about the struggles in the African American community, in his specific community, with so much compassion. It is a very complex issue, and there's a lot of different ways that people view the issue. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to discuss those various ways. J. Cole comes at it from such a compassionate angle, and it really allows the listener to open up their hearts to understand some of the things that are happening. Another one of the things that I like about this album that I haven't heard too much of in J. Cole's recent work is there's a lot of dialogue in between the songs and throughout the songs. So you get a real good sense for some of his personality, and it gives a real casual tone to it, which mirrors this place that he was in his life, probably. Not yet being a superstar, having a clear path to superstardom, but also not quite out of his current situation. I enjoyed the Plane skit. T-Plane, okay? That's funny. I enjoyed that skit. I thought it was hilarious. I don't often listen to skits multiple times, but this skit I actually listened to multiple times. I also really liked Dead Presidents. I like that, taking that sample from Nas. I have heard a decent amount of Nas music. I admit that I have not really dug my nails into him as an artist, but from what I heard from Nas, I can hear a lot of Nas's style influenced in J. Cole's music. Throughout this album also, there's a lot of mention of money. This conversation about money is entangled with morality. J. Cole is exploring that, maybe not in a very obvious way, but through his music, it sounds like he is exploring that relationship between money and the community and his self, in how he fits into all of that. He's so good at just twisting around his perspective, just twisting around his consciousness and looking at things from so many different angles and speaking about it so well and with so much intelligence and thoughtfulness and compassion that I don't know which I admire more, his philosophical mind or his artistic work. I also love Can't Cry. The second verse on that song was hard to hear. And I like that it was hard to hear. And then at the end of that verse, he even says, change the channel, I can't listen to this anymore, because he's dragging the listener down this really dark path, and it seems to be getting worse and worse to a point where you can understand the stress that's coming at so many different angles. It becomes so much that you don't really want to hear it anymore. And I think he picks a good time to make this switch, and I like that he does it. It leads right into saying, I can't cry. J. Cole really honors the strength that comes from struggle. J. Cole, the character, rapper, not Jermaine something. See, I don't even know his last name. I mean, because I'm not talking about him. I'm only concerned with the rapper and the rapper's music. It ends with Rags to Riches. I thought that was a great ending to the album. As a old woman and somebody's mom, It is really funny to hear a 21, I think he was 21 or 22-year-old J. Cole refer to himself as a grown man. And he does it multiple times throughout the album. And I believe at that time, he has such thoughtfulness and such maturity that he probably really felt like a grown man. But it's just funny because 21, no matter how grown you are, 21 is pretty young. In conclusion, I'm wondering so many things. First of all, if and how he's going to map this on top of the fall off as far as describing his growth. There's so many things that make J. Cole special, but only one of the ways in which I think that he is special as an artist is that he has a way of reflecting and expressing that reflection. And some of his best songs, in my opinion, Deja Vu off of For Your Eyes Only, Wet Dreams off of 2014 Forest Hills Drive, Change off of For Your Eyes Only, School Days and Dollar in a Dream off this mixtape. He can look into the past and so clearly define those moments and really allow the listener to feel that nostalgia that he is feeling as he's reflecting on this. With that being said, I am so curious. I'm so excited to hear the fall off and see how he does this throughout his entire career. I believe that, and I cannot confirm this. This video is not thought out. I've done no research. I believe that he has been planning this fall off album for many, many years. So as an artist and just seeing how he's gone about his career, I'm just wondering if he is taking the fall off to be a grand reflection and not in these smaller projects where he's sort of reflecting backwards in his life. How is he going to reflect on his entire journey and what he chooses to reflect on and how he expresses that? I'm really excited to hear. I think it would be a real treat maybe to even listen to this album first before listening to the fall off, just to get a good comparison. Right after I listened to this album once, I listened to Might Delete Later, and I just enjoyed that stark contrast between the two. Any J. Cole fans out there, it may be a fun project to just block off 2.5 hours of J. Cole's bars, listening to this mixtape first and then the fall off directly after. I want to know what you guys thought about this mixtape. Have you heard this mixtape before? Is he going to surprise us with the fall off and just wrap up 2024 like a boss? I hope to see you guys very soon. I'm so nervous because he's just been surprising us all year. I'm so nervous that I'm not even going to get this video edited in time before the fall off drops. Wish me luck. I will see you next time. Bye bye. Namaste.